Hello, everybody, and welcome to Last Man Standing. I'm Dan Hollifield, and with me tonight is Rich, and we are just going to try and pick up, well, not where we left off on Stupid O'Clock, because that was so all over the place. I don't know what thread to pick up there. But we're doing good right now, and for those who were in the green room last night, I apologize for my somnambulance, but I did eventually recover. Oh, yeah, I woke up and you and Donna were talking and oh, there's Dan. I go, yep, yeah, he is.
And we're
Uh,
sitting there, we're looking. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, just as rising and falling. We're all good, you know. And then at one point in time, you're like this, and then eventually you do end up doing one of these, and then you do a couple of changes. I'm like, okay, is he awake yet? Nope, still out, So,
mm,
but
yeah,
yeah,
when I sleep, it's total sleep.
Donna, Nita, and Anna all tried doing the sexy "Oh Dan" voice, and none.
I I wasn't having none of it.
And then Nita's like, "Screw this. Let's start playing some young people music, as she called it, to try to wake you up."
Oh yeah, well, evidently I needed that little nap. It was only about 2 hours, right?
Ish,
Yeah. But
somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
when I actually did wake up and become sociable again, going, well, let me finish this beer. I probably need to go to bed. My wife is probably going to be irritated that I didn't come to bed on time because she knows when the shows stop and start, but she should be used to Friday nights not having a stop time because sometimes they go on to way early in
God awful
Saturday
in the
morning.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah, really, and everybody's still awake. It's not because I'm asleep. It's because it's some good conversations. But hey,
Yeah. If it's a Saturday that Misty doesn't have to work, I get a little bit more leeway of being able to come in later. Um, it's just throughout the years she is so accustomed to me actually being there in bed with her that she has a hard time sleeping
yep.
without. And then for a good number of years, we were on exact opposite shifts. She was on third, I was on
Oh
first,
dear.
and it was so brutal on her. It was not even funny. Um, but now she's on a day shift type thing. Um, it's funny. It's when we first got married. So I've got restless leg syndrome.
Mm,
I've had it my entire life.
yep. Lindsay
Um,
does too.
when we first got married, it irritated the hell out of Misty because she couldn't fall asleep because my leg was just, you know, going like a dog, someone scratching their belly. Um, and over the years, it's gotten to the point where she can't fall asleep unless I'm rocking the bed with my leg going. It actually rocks her to sleep now.
That's how you know that you have made the transition from dating to being married.
Yeah.
Let me step away from the camera for a second. I've got to turn off my on the air light because Lindsay has left the bedroom door open, and I know she's got to get up early to go to church in the morning, but she never knocks on the door to tell me I need to switch the light off so she can sleep. She's that polite. She's British. Sometimes they're more polite than they need to be.
Sounds like my
Hmm.
wife.
Oh yes, oh yes. Uh, but there are night lights all over the house because after this many years of being on swing shift, I never know whether I'm going to be asleep in the daytime or in the nighttime. And I've got a DTO job now, daytime only job, so I'm not supposed to be going to work at night anymore and sleeping through the day. But I've got the house is set up to where if there's a room I got to walk through, there's a light source of some kind, even if it is basically just a bug light on the wall. Because I hate stubbing my toe on furniture that I thought I knew where I'd put. Sometimes the rooms do get rearranged when I'm not looking, and this is not a malicious thing. It's just I thought it would look better over there.
So I am now in the house that I grew up in.
Oh,
Hopefully for another week or so. Next Wednesday we should be signing the lease on the new place. Um, but so I'm in the house that I grew up in. So I can wander a good portion of this house in complete
blindfolded.
darkness because I was never really awake enough to open my eyes to to trudge whatever I was when I was a kid. I used to be able to um, come out of my bedroom without opening my eyes, walk down the hallway, walk into the kitchen, open the cupboard, pull out a glass, fill it with water, drink my glass of water, sit it in the kitchen sink, and go back down the hallway without turning the light on, without opening my eyes, the whole 9 yards. Um, and of course, in the 20-ish, give or take, years since I've moved out, new furniture's been purchased, stuff like that. So things aren't exactly where they used to be. And I find this out. Um,
The hard way.
yeah, and another thing I found out, not really found out, it's I knew it when I lived here when I was younger. My parents never thought I would grow to be as tall as I did. So the shower head in the bathroom upstairs, which was where the kids were, was set lower, like here.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's now a detachable shower head with the uh, the hose and all that. So it's not as bad because right now with the nerve issues I've been having with my legs, I would not be able to squat down under a normal
Hmm.
shower head and be able to do everything I need to before falling over. And it's um, good thing I got my hair chopped um, because otherwise, it would take a hell of a lot longer to wash the hair.
Yes.
um,
Um, I went years with almost waist length hair sometimes, but basically what it boiled down to is about twice a year I'd go get a haircut.
that's my
So
usual schedule too.
if it was the fifth month, my hair would be quite long, and I would have to have it tied up in a ponytail, and I had to undo it to take a shower, get it all clean and everything. But it does take an awful lot of shampoo and an awful lot of effort when you've got long hair. So I have been able to fully empathize with ladies who have long hair and they're complaining about how long it takes to wash it and dry it and style it. And I'm going, well, I don't have to worry about the drying and styling, but washing it, I do understand.
Yeah.
Um,
Misty starts getting twitchy about month 4 and beyond with my hair. Um, she does not like long hair on a guy. She puts up with mine. Um, but yeah, I've always had the ideology of, eventually I will probably lose my hair. So if I have long hair now, when I have no hair later on, it averages out to a full head of hair my entire life.
yes. Uh, my sister is really pissed off at me because I haven't developed the male pattern baldness that she did, and during my dad's later years, he had that Captain Picard look going on really good, and he wore it well.
Well, the thing is, it would
Uh,
be your mom's side of the family that would determine yours.
yeah, yeah, but uh, now my little brother, it didn't. It took us quite a number of decades before we figured out he's the reason that Grecian formula was still in business. Because his hair didn't go gray. Mine started going gray when I turned about 17, 18.
Started getting some gray in mine about that. My mid 20s is when the white started creeping into the
Hmm.
beard and mustache. Um, but I luck out. Um, Apparently, I have whatever was going on with my mom's biological father. So all of my gray is silver. So in my hair, it looks like highlights.
Well,
There's a
in mine,
little bit
it looks
right in
like
here
I've
you might
still
be able to
got
see.
some. It's getting thinner. It's every time I get my hair cut, it gets thinner, and the hairline keeps going back, and I'm going, okay, okay, I'm not vain enough to worry about it. One of these days, I'll be rocking Dad's look, and everything will be just cool for me. I don't care. Um, my sister asked me one time why I didn't go ahead and dye my hair back dark because it was just beginning to go gray at the time. I just looked at her and go, that would be vain. Meanwhile, she's asking this when her hair is bright red, which it was never in her life. That is not a natural color for our family. Dark brown, yes. Bright red, no, no, no. You're not supposed to look like a Corvette.
A friend of mine, someone once asked them what their natural hair, uh, what their hair color was, and they replied, "Not found in nature." Um, for many years, she had um, gone with her good friend Miss Clairol.
Mm,
Misty gets upset because she's got a lot of white in her hair, and she's afraid of the O word. In fact, I'll get in trouble if I refer to her as my old lady. So
mm.
that means I just have to do it often. My parents named me Dick. I get to live up to it. She gets mad at me when I say that. She says, "You don't have to." I'm like, didn't say have to. I said get to. Big difference. Big difference.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's I.
Lindsay objects when I say something like, "This ain't my first rodeo," and she knows exactly what I'm referring to because I'm her fourth husband. She's my third wife. You know, I have traveled this path several times in the past, and I know how many things are supposed to work and how some things are not ever supposed to work. And thankfully, I'm in one of the stages that where I this is the way it's supposed to work. So that's normalcy is something I really am enjoying.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's Misty was married once before, um, and he wasn't the. Let's just say that until he did something extremely stupid, I was on my best behavior because she brought two of my children into our marriage, and the middle one thought her biological father walked on water, and I didn't want to
Mm,
do anything to, um, kind of push my child away or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, and then he did some stuff to some little kids and got caught and is now in prison.
Ouch.
Um, and
Deservedly so.
oh yeah, well he physically abused Misty. He physically abused my older two children. Um, he mentally abused Misty and my son horribly. And he was grooming my older daughter for other stuff. Um, but now my older daughter is able to realize exactly what happened and stuff like that. So she's coming to the light. So I'm very welcome to be of my opinion that you know should I see him on the street after he gets released in what 21 more years, I might be going to prison for beating the hell out of an old man. Um, well, older.
But
I mean, he's technically he's only 10 years older than I am. So I mean,
yeah, well, that's still going to apply. Yeah, all of my children are stepchildren, and I hate the step word, but
that's
it's
why
a
I
fact
say
of
they were brought
it's.
into the marriage.
Yep, it's a fact of life. Uh, it's just one of those things where, and I, my mother and I have arguments about. Yes, they are mine. I helped raise them. That's what you taught me how to do. It's one of the things that I was born and bred to do is raise kids whether they belong to me or not. It runs in the family.
That
Uh,
was our family view as well. My father's biological father was an ass and was never really part of the life of my sisters or I. Um, and I was fine with that. I kind of wanted to know where I came from, not necessarily become friends with the man. Um, but yeah, it's my grandpa Charlie, the man who raised my dad, is this the man that my dad refers to as his father, and it's he was just a terrifically great man, and he never used the word step when referring to my dad. It's my dad was his son as far as he was concerned. As
yep,
far as my dad was concerned, Charlie was his dad. So I mean, um,
yeah. I feel the same way. All of our kids are mine. I may not have been invited to the consummation of those weddings, but you know, uh, I may not be their father, but I'm doing my best to be the best daddy that I can.
yeah.
And that's the thing. I not trying to take anybody else's place. I'm just trying to earn my own place. And I seem to have succeeded. So the kids really they they know that I'm not trying to take the place of their biological parents. Uh, and basically, they appreciate the fact that I do my best to make my own place. Basically, uh, it works. It works really well. Uh, I wish for other folks that it would work out just as well for them, but sometimes that's not the case. And I try. I don't have negative opinions of their biological father. I do have a negative opinion of Lindsay's third husband, who was a complete and total jerk. Not only did he run off with her retirement money, but he maxed out their joint credit card and left her holding the bag. And basically, we had to go down to the courthouse and get with the local chief of police and figure out some paperwork here to file. And in order for her to successfully divorce him so we could get married, we not only had to post a notice in the local paper, but the paper where Lindsay was living back when she was married to him, and his most likely.
The state that he
Uh,
absconded to.
yes, exactly. And the cops just said, knowing this guy's record, he's probably going back and forth across the border from Washington State into Canada selling drugs on both sides of the border, and sooner or later he's going to get what's coming to him because he's going to double cross the wrong people. This was a cop saying it to me. This is not an opinion I formed, but I was glad to have that ray of sunshine. Uh, but it's neither here nor there. I do have a really good relationship with Lindsay's first husband. Uh, her oldest girl, that's his her father, and he and I have agreed to be co-parents. So basically, both of us lavish her with attention, and she just eats it up. She's they're all really sweet kids. She just loves the fact that her two dads get along. So that's really neat. The circumstances of he and Lindsay splitting up were basically just one of those unfortunate things. It's one of those cases where uh neither of them wanted to split up, but it was not uh, it was not working the way it once did, basically. And it was no ill feeling on either part, but
Woke up one day and realized, this isn't what we signed on for. And before it gets to the point where, we're, really filled with animosity towards one another, you know,
well, yeah. I mean,
let's divide up the company.
there's more to it than that I don't have the freedom to say, but their their interests diverged basically, and they still love each other very much, although they couldn't ever live together again. And that was the thing that they walked down two separate paths and uh, amicably agreed to remain friends but no longer be married. And that it worked out. It was a very
I
fortunate thing.
respect when that happens that way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
um, Misty gets mad at me. Um, I do not believe in saying yes. Tomorrow is exactly going to be exactly the same as today. I don't know what tomorrow brings.
Hmm.
It's I have too often been like, God, this is exactly how my path is going to be. I know exactly where I'm walking, and he's been like, want to bet?
Mm.
Um, so I refuse to say anything with any kind of permanence. I tell her I plan to be with her for the rest of my life. I don't know what tomorrow brings. If it gets to the point where we are toxic for one another, we need to split. You know, I'm hoping that never happens, but the damage we'll do to our kid and the damage we'll do to one another is not worth staying together for the kid.
Yeah, that's a very 60s attitude. Yeah, staying together for the kid. Um,
Because then you also have the kid going, Mom and Dad are miserable, and it's because of me. So, I mean, and that just
yes,
compounds everything as
yes,
well.
yes. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And there's no reason to make the kid feel guilty for something that they didn't do. They had no part in. It's just people who once worked really well together find out that they no longer work well together. And when the
Erosion
parting is,
happens in life as well as,
yeah,
in the elements.
when the split is amicable, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I love it when that happens, even though I hate that it had to happen. But it's a good result of an unfortunate situation. If I have said that intelligibly.
I
Uh,
I get where you're going because I mean, even though what happened with Misty and her ex was really bad, kind of happy it happened. Not that I wished any of that on my kids or my wife, but had he not done that, I wouldn't have the four best things in my life.
yes, I understand completely. Yes, and I'm in total agreement. Um, I've had a few wild rides in my time, and I am extraordinarily grateful that I finally matured enough to deserve the happiness that I have now.
My ex psychopath. Um,
Yes, yes. I, yeah, I believe I know that reference and how it would apply to one of my exes. Um,
um,
uh,
my ex psychopath almost drove me out of the country.
mm,
Um, so we were dating for a while. I'd actually proposed to her. Things went kind of weird. We kind of separated, and then she kind of kept me on as boyfriend light when she went back to one of her ex boyfriends, which was one of my good friends. So I was happy for them. Um, but it there was just a lot of mind screwing going on and stuff like that. Um, and the company I worked for had a office in Debrecen, Hungary.
mm,
That they were looking for supervisors and managers to go over to Hungary to work over there to teach the Hungarian folks how to do things the SEI way. Um, so I ran, to put my name in for that, and um, Misty, my wife, was actually part of my Dungeons and Dragons group. So I sent a email to the entire group saying, "Hey, some stuff might be happening here in the near future. I put in to go to Hungary for the company, so I don't know how fast things will move should they decide to go ahead and go with me." And then Misty sent me a reply email that was fairly lengthy, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm translating this correctly. So I went out to talk to my mom. I'm like, Mom, am I translating this from hot chick to dumbass correctly? And my mom reads it and she's like, yeah, I think she likes you. Um, so
uh-huh.
we started dating, and um, 1 year and 24 days after we met, we were actually married, and we'll be married for 18 years on December 29th.
Uh, Lindsay and I met through an unsolved mysteries group, and basically it was based around a website that was primarily concerned with the mystery of the Autumn of Terror in 1888, the Jack the Ripper murders. So we had known each other for 10, maybe 12 years online. Nothing between the two of us except good conversation in a room full of other people that were interested in unsolved mysteries. And my second wife passed away unexpectedly. About a year later, uh, I had healed to the point to where I was thinking about, maybe it's time that I started looking around for some companionship and maybe a little romance, and let's see where this goes. And um, I was chatting up one of the other girls in the group, And Lindsay popped into the chat room and goes, "Hey, I've been waiting on you." About 3 months after that, we had a long distance telephone romance from that night forward. But about 3 months after that, she got on a Greyhound bus and rode for 3 days to get here. We had never met each other in the flesh before, just exchanged profile pictures, basically. Nothing more intimate than that. And we knew each other basically from 10 years worth of talking and joking and figuring out logic puzzles and stuff like that. And we knew from the get-go we'd never tried to fool around with each other, so there was a very, very good possibility it would never occur to us to fool around on each other. Because we were both married when we first got to know each other. It's just her third husband had run off with her money. My second wife had passed away, and I went through the entire
Perfect
grieving
storm.
period. Yeah, and things just kind of fell together. And I'm I'm very proud to say I was a perfect gentleman about it. I said, "Look, uh, you've got a stalker out there, somebody trying to break into her apartment and do nefarious things against her will." And I'm going, "Look, do I need to rescue you?" And she goes, "Let me think about it." About 3 days later, the stalker dude had come back, and the police were refusing to do anything because he hadn't really committed any crimes other than being
Be
an
creepy as hell.
yeah, be creepy as hell and annoying git. And she says, "Okay, okay, what do we do?" And I go, "Well, look, I can't." She refused to let me take a bus to go out there and rent a truck to bring all of her stuff back here. She said she was going to get on the bus and come here. I mean, okay, it's not the best way to do things, but the way she wanted it to work. So I said, "Look, when you get here, we'll get to know each other in person. If you decide I'm not for you, I will help you find an apartment. I will help you find a job. I will help you get set up, and we'll still be friends, and everything will be hunky dory. No strings attached." And she goes, "Okay, I can accept that." I sent her mailed her a copy, a printout of the book that I was working on over the last 2 years, and it had gotten finished, and hopefully it's going to see print soon because I've sent it off to my publisher now that I've gotten the rights back to that. And she said by the end of the first day on the bus, she'd been reading it. She forgot I wrote it. She was just that wrapped up in the story. Um, she got here. I met the bus at the bus station in Athens, Georgia, and she said she knew that it was me for two reasons. I was the only one wearing a T-shirt that had the logo for my e-zine across the chest, and the other one, I was levitating about 4 feet off the ground. So basically, I was looking at her level with the bus window, and she had to come down 3 or 4 steps to get off the bus and touch the ground. And I gave her a short tour of uh, some places that were really familiar and sentimental to me from my childhood in Athens, and drove her back out to uh, about 15 miles north of there, where we live, and had cooked her a spaghetti dinner. I almost forgot the garlic bread, but I remembered it at the last minute. So that didn't get screwed up because I had these glorious plans, and we ate dinner and had a nice romantic evening listening to music videos and stuff, and actually getting to know each other in person. And
First meal I cooked for Misty was spaghetti.
mm, yeah, well, I've got to say it's one of the things that I'm pretty good at, and make the sauce from scratch. So I went all out. Uh, but I was trying to impress her, and she knew it. But she was still impressed, and there was no negative stuff going on. And we later on that evening, after we'd eaten and had at, at least one bottle of very nice wine. I don't know if it was more than one, but I think it was just one. Went out under the stars in the front yard and pretty much decided we were going to work out. We loved each other, and we're going to give it the best shot that we possibly could. And about 6 or 8 months later, um, we decided to get married. Um, she wanted a great big fancy wedding in the front yard, and my sister-in-law decided that she was going to be the wedding planner from hell. So we decided we just elope and run off to the county courthouse and get married. And got to the county courthouse, and my parents were waiting there along with one of my friends from work, and we went ahead and got married anyway. My dad gave her away because her dad was still over in England. And then we continued the elopement by my mom and dad driving us to north of Knoxville for a family reunion, my mom's side of the family. Yeah, we eloped, but my mom drove. Um, got got there. My wife met my 98-year-old grandmother, and my grandmother told her to take very good care of me because I didn't take very good care of myself on my own. And then one of my aunts led Lindsay into my grandmother's kitchen. This is like entering the holiest of holies. There are women who have been married into the family for 10 years and never got invited in the kitchen. So my Aunt Mary hands Lindsay a head of cabbage and a huge knife and says, "You make the coleslaw for the family reunion dinner," and walked off and let her do it. Perfect trust. Two other aunts, my mom, other folks cooking different stuff in Granny's kitchen. Granny's sitting out in the living room, dipping snuff and drinking RC Cola, something like that, watching soap operas, except it was probably a Saturday. No, I think it was a Thursday, watching the soap operas. And by the end of the family reunion dinner that night, everybody had made it perfectly clear that Lindsay was more than welcome in the family, and if I screwed up, I was going to get thrown out. They wanted this woman in the family. So, little bitty British girl. Uh,
So my ex psychopath. Um, Her father is a county deputy um, up in the county that, well, actually, technically the county I live in right now, the county I grew up in. And I don't remember exactly what I did. Or, sorry, I did. it wasn't me that did it, it was her. I don't remember exactly what she did, but I always had a running gag. It's not murder if they can't find the body. I did not realize that Dan, her dad, was standing behind me, and she did something, and I looked at her. I'm like, "It's not murder if they can't find the body." And her dad just leaned in. Pigs eat everything. I'll show you where the farm is. Um, Former homicide detective, offering to help me hide the body. But it
Evidently,
used to
she'd been a bad girl way too often.
it irritated the hell out of her because her father and I, she kept calling us the twins because he was a tall individual as well, and it's just he and I just got on thick as thieves. Um, when we broke up, he sat me down. He's like, "If you ever try to date my daughter again, I'm going to hit you in the head with a brick. You deserve much better than her." When we broke up, he honestly asked my parents if they would mind switching kids.
I think that probably would have went over about like the brick that he was threatening you with.
My mom, before things started getting a little wonky in our relationship, my mom liked Michelle. Didn't love Michelle, liked Michelle. She put up with her. After we broke up, she was like, "Good." And then from that day on, she just hated Michelle with the passion of a thousand suns. Loved Misty instantly until my mom's dying day. Did not have an ill word to say about Misty. So,
Well, I've got to say the only thing that my mom has objected to is that we've never had any children of between the two of us. Uh, we've had her kids, we've had my kids from previous marriages, and that's just fine for us. I mean, great big happy family as far as I'm concerned. But my mom is kind of a traditionalist. She wanted us to uh, give her biological grandchildren, and that's been about the only objection mom has ever had. Now, mom's getting along in years now, and she's getting a little snarky when she doesn't need to be. And sometimes she says things that Lindsay takes personally that most likely were not meant to be comments to piss somebody off. But then again, knowing my mom, just cause
column
it
A, column
wasn't
B.
just cause it wasn't meant to be nasty doesn't mean that it doesn't come out that way.
Okay.
It's, you know how snarky I can get. My mom is probably where I got it from. Uh, Now I do try and frame my nastygrams as jokes, but mom does not have the comedy gene. That one I definitely got from daddy.
Well, I would probably say probably at this stage of the game, she is probably out of uh, trying to keep it PG-13 figs to give.
Um, no, it's more like since daddy passed away, she's just not had much reason to be happy, and the rest of the family gets the overflow. And we know exactly what it is, we know exactly why it is, and we let it slide. But Lindsay takes things personally. So she it's not that she's mistaking a joke for an insult. It's that mom doesn't see that she's being nasty when she's being ill-tempered, and
She feels that she's being honest, and it's not meant to hurt her. It's meant to help her.
no, no, it's more meant that she's complaining about somebody else entirely, and Lindsay
Ah,
thinks it's her.
okay.
Yeah. Uh, and I love the woman with all my heart, but if she hears somebody make a snarky remark, she's going to assume it is aimed at her. And
Sounds like a British version of Misty.
yeah,
Um,
really, really, really. Um, it's one of the her her manners are impeccable. She has style and grace out the wazoo, but she's very, very sensitive. And Mom gave up being sensitive a long time ago. So she thinks it, she says it.
yeah, that's kind of been bred out of the Asplin clan.
Mm,
Um,
well, and it's not aimed at anybody. It's more of a shotgun blast. This pisses me off. Doesn't apply to my wife. I didn't say it did. She thinks she did. Oh, I'm sorry. Tell her that. I'm sitting here going, I'm not a ping pong ball, you know. I'm not playing telephone messenger here. Y'all got a problem. Y'all got to solve it. I'm just trying to survive till I get old enough to enjoy retirement.
yeah, Misty came up in a very different kind of family than mine. Um, I think I started swearing about the time I was 5 or 6. Um, Swearing in front of my parents probably about the time I was, well, mild swear words we were able to get away with around 10. The beyond PG-13, about 16, we were able to start using those around mom and dad and stuff. Um, but it's Misty's family. They didn't swear. Um, didn't smoke, didn't drink. Um, very very Southern Baptist.
Mm.
Um, and I was sharing beers with my dad from the time that I could drink out of a non-sippy cup. Um, just walking around at the 4th of July at 5 years old, and dad hands me the can of beer, take a sip, hand it back to dad, and walk around more. Um, but then again, 70s, go figure. Um, but she was in for a very rude awakening when she started dealing with my family. Um, One of our running gags in the family is the best way to get kids to behave is duct tape and a stun gun. Well, um, I don't have much of a filter, if you could tell. Um, but
Hadn't noticed. No, not at all.
So it's my eldest sister's youngest 2 children went with me back to Misty's parents on Christmas Eve for something. I think the thing we were doing stuff over at my parents for a little bit, and then Misty and I went to go do some stuff at her parents for a little bit. Um, and I don't know exactly what was said, but something was spoken about how to get a kid to behave without thinking about it, because I've got you know two of my you know sister's kids there. I'm in full family mode, and I just kick off with duct tape and a stun gun. My wife's mother was afraid to let me alone with the kids for probably 10 years of our marriage.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe a little bit less than that, but But she's like, is he kinda? And I'm like, you really think I'm going to apply duct tape and a stun gun to kids? You know. But here's the thing: the best thing about duct tape and a stun gun is you don't actually have to apply them to people to get them to behave. Just the sound of one kicking off or the sound of ripping of duct tape will immediately get most people to go, "What's going on?" Um, I know I have a distinct distaste and fear of the sound of ripping duct tape. Um, my father did HVAC for the entirety of my life until he retired. So we had duct tape by the box loads in the house. So back in the 70s, a wonderful little comic book TV series was on the air um, by the name of Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Uh, so their golden lasso wasn't golden, their golden lasso was silver. So my eldest sister got to be Wonder Woman. Sheila was Wonder Woman because she was the oldest. And of course, Brenda, my middle sister, got to be Wonder Girl because, well, the younger. And I always had to be the villain.
You were there.
I spent the majority of my childhood until they outgrew their wanting to play Wonder Woman and Wonder Girl, um, wrapped up like a mummy. My parents were concerned that there were wide swaths of my body that would never grow hair because of how thoroughly I was duct taped, and I would usually run around in just a bathing suit.
And yeah, I bet you understood the principle of a Brazilian wax before you ever even knew there was such a thing.
Yep. Um, although thankfully, since I was at least wearing shorts, and also at that point in time, you know, that was pre the change.
Mm.
So I wouldn't have to worry about it that much. But still, yeah, it's one of those where, to this day, if I hear ripping duct tape, I will beat a motherfucker with another motherfucker. I can do that. I have. Um, I'm perfectly capable of picking someone up and beating another person with them. Oh, okay. Maybe right now I can't. I've got to get back into shape for that. Sorry, back into a better physical condition because round is a shape, not a
I'm
healthy
I'm
shape.
I'm I'm well aware that I'm kind of pear-shaped at the moment myself. Well, more avocado than pear, but
I definitely know that feeling.
mm, well, I do plead that I am 65 and I do drink beer, so um, I do have a very physical job, and I did grow up on a farm, so I was in great shape up until computers came along, and I started spending most of my time sitting in a chair rather than farming. So, mm, still got my health, most of it. Well, nine, mm, 4/10 of it, I guess. I'm going to have to run off to the restroom. I'll be right back. I'm just going to turn off the microphone so nobody else has to listen.
Very good.
You just vamp for a while, and I'll be right back. Oh. Sorry about that, but biological necessary is biological necessary.
I definitely know that feeling.
Now, where were we? Oh, can't recall. Family stuff. That's about as close as I could get. Uh, now, my parents were not very uptight for 50s, 60s, 70s parents. We got away with a lot of stuff, but we were expected to pull our weight and do chores on the farm and things like that. And um, we all pretty much tried to turn it into as much fun as possible. There was a lot of comedy going on. You get me, my sister, and my brother together. Uh, if you can translate the family shorthand, where we know how to put into one or two words things that would take entire paragraphs to present as a stand-up routine. Uh, we will have folks in the know rolling in the aisle because they remember the actual incidents that provoked the humor. But we did have uh, access to huge amounts of comedy from popular entertainment. It went back to uh, Ted Mack and uh, oh goodness gracious, now I can't remember his name. Uh, really big shoe. Uh, uh, uh,
Oh, Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan. Thank you, thank you. I do have this aphasia from time to time. I know the words that I'm trying to say, I just can't get my mouth to spit them out. And uh, George Carlin was on different TV shows back when he was still wearing a tie. Uh, Don Rickles, Johnny Carson, one of the greats for being able to tell a joke so bad that he can make the audience feel guilty about booing him for not being able to deliver it correctly. Um, all sorts of things, all sorts of things. But oh Lord, I remember when Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis had their own variety show and would do comedy. I mean, this was back before color television was invented. Uh, Grand Ole Opry had comedy routines. Uh, Dolly Parton was just beginning on the Porter Wagner show. Uh, Disney's Wonderful World of Color was about 5 years after we started watching Disney. Um, color TVs were they started showing up in our area about second season of Lost in Space in the original run. So mm, Star Trek was brand new. Um, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was the height of science fiction entertainment. Um, good grief, so many things. I'd come home from school and get to watch an episode of Fireball XL5 and then watch a chapter from a Rocket Man serial that my parents had watched in the movie theaters when it was new back in the 20s or 30s. And they were kids, 30s probably. Um, so much stuff, so much stuff. Um, every variety show, no matter who was the host, had comedy routines. And sometimes they'd have people that would go on to have a much larger career because they just kept on going for another 50 years, refining and developing their sense of humor. Uh, Jack Benny, uh,
Some of the
Bob
great
Hope.
vaudeville acts,
Oh yeah,
Hope and George Burns
yes,
and
yes
stuff like that,
indeed.
going from vaudeville to comedy and just
Yeah, not only variety shows, but
jet
their own
rocketing.
little TV shows. Uh, I Love Lucy, brand new. Uh, Lord, it makes me feel old to remember that. Um, and movie shorts from the earlier era. Uh, Our Gang, the Hal Roach series of uh, child comedians running around having wild adventures, and then you got some more serious stuff that
I
was
grew up in a lot of
thrown in the
Stooges
mix
and Little
too.
Rascals.
Oh yeah, Little Rascals, the Stooges. Yep. I eventually got really tired of slapstick, but at the time it was tremendously entertaining.
Slapstick has that weird quality that if you're not ready for it, even if you're just done with it, it just gets you.
Yeah.
Um, then that's one thing that Chevy Chase and Chris Farley were awesome at. Destroyed their bodies. Did horrific amounts of damage to themselves. And you had to look at Chris Farley, and a lot of people didn't understand that the man, even though he was packing on all that weight, the incredible athleticism that he had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's he was able to jump higher than a lot of folks who weren't packing that much weight on. Um, and he was able to do a lot of very physical stuff. But again, a lot of that did a lot of damage to him. That's one of the
Hmm.
reasons why he got into the substance issues that he got into and caused
Hmm.
a great deal of um, sorrow for the world because it led to his passing. But
Yep.
um, you have to admire because if you don't study that, if you don't look at that, you don't understand what's really behind it. Like, there's a lot of folks that be like, "Oh, wrestling's fake. It's fake." Okay, it might be scripted a fair amount.
Hmm.
A lot of it's improv, but yes, there's some that's scripted. That okay, so and so's going to come out of here a winner. About 5 minutes into the match, you need to do this, but otherwise it's you know getting close, whispering the next moves and things to each other. But it's still a great amount of physical training and conditioning you have to be able to hold another man above your head.
Yes.
To come off that top rope and land on that mat and not break a rib. I don't care how much padding is in there. There's not a lot of padding in there because you can't have a lot of padding to be able to hear that, you know, um, and get that level of spring. Um,
Did you ever see Belushi doing his impersonation of Joe Cocker?
Probably, but I don't recall off the top of my head.
He they were doing Get By With a Little Help from My Friends, and Belushi just did a belly flop onto the stage, and you knew there was no padding on that stage, and you pretty much guessed that Nobody knew he was going to do that until he actually did it. Then he drew back his arms and legs and was just kind of wobbling around on his stomach like a
Weeble wobble.
weebles wobble but they don't fall down sort of thing. And still in character trying to do Joe Cocker, which Joe's one of those folks where it's easy to make fun of him, but then you look at what he's actually doing, you look at how he's actually singing, you look at the range that he has, and there's a lot of emotion involved in the actual performance. People make fun of it because his voice sounded a little bit scratchy, but then big guy up there doing what he loved, and just basically no fucks left to give. I mean, it was past Woodstock, so nobody had any left to give. Um, oh Lord, so many folks doing things that. Oh God, if you'd seen some of the early stuff that Jerry Lewis got up to on the Martin and Lewis variety show, you'd swear he would have wound up in the emergency room 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
But no, got up and kept going and was funny, telling just totally ridiculous jokes that probably shouldn't have worked, but the physical comedy made it work. Um, Abbott and Costello, good God. Um, they turned out to be not only a good comedy duo, but they actually had acting chops as well in
Yeah.
some of the movies that they did later. Um, Hope and Crosby, comedy duo, music duo, acting chops.
Oh, I
Who'd
mean,
have thunk it?
Crosby and anyone, because Crosby and Kay, um, um, oh, there was another one.
Oh, Chris
Um,
Walker is saying the Three Stooges. Yeah, we went through the Stooges here a little bit earlier in the discussion there, Chris. At, and but thanks for saying that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, Danny Kaye. Um, um, oh heavens. Uh, oh Lord, the Keystone Cops shorts from the 20s. Those guys must have spent fortunes on splints and band-aids and uh, ace bandages and whatnot. You could not do that stuff without getting hurt.
Reynolds and DeLuise.
Oh yeah.
Cannonball Run movies among the best series of comedy movies. Hands down, I will die on this hill. Not necessarily the best, but definitely among the best. And my favorite bits were always when Dom DeLuise, you know, suddenly snapped into his other personality and became, was it Captain Chaos?
Yes.
Um, and it was just excellent, and just the way they were able to play off of each other. But then again, a lot of those also had um, Sammy Davis Jr. come in, as well as it was usually Sammy and Dino.
Semi and Dean Martin. Yep. Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's just and you couldn't get away with those movies nowadays.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Just barely got away with them then.
yeah. Um, uh, Mel Brooks
Oh Lord. If
trying to make those movies today, and I'm not even going Blazing Saddles, because Blazing Saddles we know would so get him canceled so fast it's not even funny.
I
But
have I
even
have
or even Young Frankenstein would have just pushed the boundaries of today's audiences.
Um, as far as I know, um, Gene Wilder wrote that, and Mel Brooks goes, "We got to do this." So, oh, Animal House. Thank you, Chris. Yes, that was almost filmed at the University of Georgia, but they had to go elsewhere because,
Oregon.
yeah,
We discussed
we
that
had
I
that
think
we
last
had that
week.
discussion. Yeah, um, but it's there's a huge swath of things. Yes, I don't have my teeth in. Sorry, I can't get used to wearing the dentures. Um, can't whistle anymore without teeth, though. I tell you, that's a side effect about having dentures. You don't have them in, you can't whistle.
Yeah, it's
Um,
I'm in the midst of getting things taken care of for partials because I really miss actually being able to chew most foods instead of gum them partially.
yeah. Um, although I have found a couple of restaurants that make a really good steak that I can go through as if it were butter. I swear. Ah, Chris.
An early role for a Mr. Kevin Bacon.
Uh-huh. And then one of the guys from
Stephen
oh
Durst, who went on to Babylon 5, playing
no
beer.
no 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 I was thinking of one of the guys from um, a very early pre Saturday Night Live comedy group, um, pre Second City even. They
Wow.
they did um, a live set of skits and a comedy album, and it was basically a parody of Woodstock. But the conceit was that um, you're here, there's no food. Look to your left, look to your right. The guy next to you is your dinner. Um, wish I could remember what the name of it was. Uh, neither here nor there. I'm not going to waste time trying to remember it, but um, there was one pre Saturday Night Live routine with Belushi and Chevy Chase, and they were wearing motorcycle helmets and trying to get high by running into each other and butting heads. And the punchline was Belushi telling Chase, you better let me have the other lid," which back in the 70s meant something totally different. And, I wish I could remember. It was a National Lampoon uh, sort of. Well, that was the producers, was the magazine National Lampoon. Um,
Yeah, they did a lot of stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. Used to love the magazines because they were so outrageous. Um, wonder if they're still doing anything nowadays. I don't know. I haven't actually seen a print magazine that was in a doctor's office for decades now. But uh, oh yes, 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 yes. Twisted Sister. Yep.
One of the most haunting songs ever is D. Snyder redoing "We're Not Going to Take It,"
On the
where
piano.
the
Yes.
piano and he's out in the desert dressed in the white, and holy cow.
Yep. And actually, Niedermeyer was mentioned in the Twilight Zone movie. There was a Vietnam sequence, and the squad of soldiers were wading through a swamp and said, maybe we shouldn't have fragged Captain Niedermeyer last week, and everybody got the joke because Animal House had not been out much prior to that, so it was still fresh in everybody's mind. Um, oh Lord,
Apparently, the magazine for National Lampoons ran from 70 to 98. Um, but projects using the National Lampoon brand name still continue to this day under its production company successor, National Lampoon Incorporated. 50th anniversary of the magazine took place in 2020.
Mm, there are a lot of kids that probably could have benefited for that magazine going on for another century or so.
Oh yeah,
It's like if Mad Magazine had kept going, if Cracked Magazine had not switched to a totally online thing, which is not anywhere near as funny as the magazine was back in the day. Um,
well, it needs Sergio Argentes.
you're absolutely right. It does. It does. Along with a great number of other folks. Um, there was a whole school of cartoonists that attached to Mad Magazine that had their own style that could not be imitated, or well, it could be imitated, but not successfully.
Yeah, not
Um,
well.
yep. And then you go back. You've got folks like R. Crumb. You've got um, different different characters, different artists that were doing stuff. The fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. You got Doctor Atomic. You got all these other things that were in underground comics. Um, Started off in the '60s and were still going strong in the '70s, although they were beginning to lose uh, relevance because times were changing faster than uh, the comics could keep up with. And you uh, you wound up with stuff like Ralph Bakshi doing movies of what was it? Uh, I keep wanting to say Fat Freddy's Cat, but no, that's uh, the Freak Brothers. Um,
Fritz the Cat.
Fritz the Cat, yes indeed, yes indeed, and
Oh yeah, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon. Um, yeah, and along with those lines, you also had the greats like the Zucker brothers.
mm,
It's oh god, I can't count how many Zucker brothers lines I still quote to this day. Um,
oh
Hospital? What is it? It's this big building where they take sick people. But that's not important right now.
yeah, wound up in so many movies, that sort of thing, and who knew that leading man Heartthrob from Forbidden Planet could do comedy? Oh Lord, Leslie Nielsen, you were a talent
He
beyond belief.
yeah he his loss was it I there are very few celebrities whose deaths struck me with such a chord that I wept. Leslie Nielsen, Robin Williams, Gene Wilder, Gilda Radner. Okay, maybe there's more than a handful, but they tend to be comedians though.
Yeah,
Um,
but they still had serious acting chops
oh yeah,
as well. You have you ever seen the Scarlet Pimpernel movie that Leslie Nielsen did? back in the day, it was probably before Forbidden Planet, you could see from the lighthearted way that that movie was done in certain parts of it that Nielsen can handle comedy as well as drama, and really, really well. So, um, back when I was in college, he was best known as a serious actor. And then he got started doing the comedies later in the 80s and 90s, and pretty much realized he was having so much fun with that he wasn't going back to the serious shit anymore.
Well,
Uh,
and you get the same with De Niro. All the gangster flavored movies, the cop movies, and stuff like that, and Taxi Driver and Raging Bull and all that. And then, I don't remember the first couple comedies I saw him in, but it's just, oh dear mother of God, the man has just excellent versatility, and
yeah.
um, it's it's insane. And who else was I thinking about when I was thinking about James Caan? James Caan was another one
Oh
that
yeah.
you didn't suspect, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, that's Caan? What the hell?
Uh-huh.
And then his son became a pretty good comedic actor too.
um there was one that went the other way, was primarily known as a comedian but could do serious drama stuff. uh, uh, um, Damn it, worked with Gene Wilder uh, in Silver Streak and Stir Crazy and Richard Pryor.
Right.
Yep. Uh, Everybody had him pegged as a stand-up comedian, and then all of a sudden, you got to see stuff where he was doing some serious roles there. Um, they were in the middle of comedy movies, but he had the serious acting chops to pull it off.
Yeah. Oh hell. When we got the new vehicle, we had a trial for Sirius XM, and I listened to a lot of the comedy stations. Um, Go figure. But there was one station that um, for a week straight, every couple of hours, they would play this bit where it's just talking about Richard Pryor and stuff like that. And um, I can't remember the name of the movie, but he's just credited as Piano Man or Piano Guy or something like that.
Mhm.
And he was just supposed to be just a one-off little thing, and then he just pulled such um, a dramatic turn that just amazed the hell out of people.
Chris might have it here. Critical condition. I mean, Chris is pretty up on stuff. I mean, he remembers a huge swath of things that I have trouble getting my brain to connect the dots, but Chris remembers. Like Pepperidge Farm, Chris remembers. Um, don't ask me what field that one came out of the left side of.
Might have been Lady Sings the Blues. I think that's
Ooh, yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. That was, let's see, that was one with, wasn't it Diana Ross in the
Diana Ross.
lead
Yeah.
role? Yep. Don't remember it well, but I remember it. Uh,
Yeah, Richard Pryor's Piano Man.
there
Um,
you go.
and he was just an awesome force in comedy too, because he took his tragedy and his pain and made it funny, and he stopped telling jokes and started telling stories. And I mean, that's one of the things that you and I love to do is tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what brought us into to doing this, which is one of the reasons why, one of these days I need to put up a stand-up act just calling it stories about mom. Um, because my mother was the most technophobic person on the planet, and I ended up in IT.
Yep. Sometimes you wonder if there's any correlation between that. It
Well,
pisses mom off. That's what I want to do for a living.
well, no. I basically, and well, one, my parents decided, you're going to go to school for computers no matter what, because at that point in time, the end of the '80s, early '90s. Yes, I'm a fairly young pup. Um, but computers were the big thing. Didn't really know exactly where they wanted me to go into computers. It was just, you're going to computers. That's the only thing that they wanted to pay for college for. Um, Screwed it up twice. Still don't have a college degree. Um, but I've been in the IT industry for 21 years this year, 22 years this year. But with the way my mom was, I had to fix everything for her. Back in the days of pagers, mom could not page my dad. My dad worked HVAC, like I said, so he actually had an on-call pager. During the winter, he was on call 24/7 because heat is an emergency. And then during the summer, certain cases rated the 24/7 because of certain issues.
Yes.
But mom could not page dad. Mom could not handle punching in the home phone number and pound. Um, so what basically ended up happening was, wherever I was, I'd get a call from mom. Richie, call your dad or page your dad. All right. When I finally got a pager, I had to have voicemail on my pager so mom could leave me a message. Invariably, at least twice a week, the message would be, Richie, pick up. Richie, pick up the goddamn phone. It's a pager, mom. I'm not screening your call in ethics class, I swear. Um, so anytime I left the house, when I had my pager, I had to make sure I had at least $3 in coins to make sure that, if mom paged and left a voicemail, I could go ahead. Usually I knew what it was. Usually it was, go ahead and page dad. Every once in a while, it's like, pick up some milk on the way home or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so yeah, and I wasn't you know um, able to have a cell phone at that point in time because cell phones were extremely pricey at that point in time.
And as big as a brick.
Yeah, the lovely bag phones.
Oh, I remember an, an engineer consultant who just happened to be in the SCA showed up at the factory I worked at, and he and I got to talking, and he wound up at the uh, weekend party at the uh, home of the folks that were running the local SCA group. He walks in, and I go, "Oh, hey, yeah, glad to see you here," um, and was introduced around and everything, and he had one of the old brick cell phones. So he walked over to the phone on the wall with a rotary dial back in the day and punched in the host's phone number. The phone rang. Everybody at the party is going, "Oh, that's so cool." Nowadays it'd be, yeah, what? Why are you calling us? You're right here. Um,
my best friend from junior high and high school, and actually is still my best friend to this day. Um, Back when he was in, because we're in the same grade. Um, we were back when we were in high school. They had a rotary phone, but it was busted, um, so that a couple of the little pieces between didn't really exist. So we knew how far to pull it. So we could just use like this, like the one, and dial an entire number, knowing exactly how far to go.
Uh-huh.
Um, the, this is also back in the day where we could actually imitate a 300, 2400, and 1200 baud modem perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Oh,
we were nerds. We didn't date much.
I had one time. There's a girl I knew in high school. She and I would talk on the phone pretty much daily, before my parents got home. Um, I would be horrified if they found out that I was calling her because they would think that I was trying to date her when she was actually interested in somebody else. I was just somebody she enjoyed talking with. So I'm talking to her and take a couple too many steps away from the nightstand that the phone was on. Base of the rotary phone fell on the floor. Rotary phone quit working. About 2 days later, I was really tired of hearing my mom complain about the phone not working and how they had to buy a new one. And I go, look, logic, let's Mr. Spock, let's see what this does. Okay, phone fell flat on its base on the floor, stopped working. What will happen if I take the phone, hold it the same height off the floor, turn it upside down, and drop it that way? Phone started working. Hey, look, I'm not the brightest light bulb
Whatever
out
got
there.
knocked loose can get knocked back into place.
Yes, really. Uh, Thump it one way, it stops. Thump it another way, it starts. Worked on the tractor. Um,
The good old fashioned, my cable's bending this way and I can't hear anymore. Let's okay, there we are. And this is where we go ahead and apply the duct tape so that
that
the headphones
that part
last
of
another couple months.
that part of the cable doesn't get bent anymore. Um, Surprised nobody ever thought about taking a piece out of a drinking straw and cutting cutting it so you could loop it around like it was a pool noodle or something, and just taping it up that way so it was even stiffer. But yeah, I come up with engineering solutions for problems that don't exist. Um,
Uh, Actually, yeah, take that little piece of straw, and then I see a bunch of 5 minute crafts things on YouTube nowadays that will show something like that, where they take the drinking straw, put it over the piece of cable, and then use a hair dryer to go ahead and heat shrink it.
mm, I never thought of that, but yeah. Um, it, there's a lot of things uh, falls under the heading of uh, cardboard engineering, where you just make stuff out of scrap bits of whatever you got laying around, and it solves a problem which would have cost a lot of money for parts or labor or uh, getting a maintenance man to actually stop goofing off and fix something.
Long before the term fell out of vogue, we stopped using the term. we ended up moving to the term rednecking, um, because you hand a redneck something that's not working, they'll sit there, they'll be like, all right, I see this bit's loose right here, this piece of baling wire, this piece of gum, a little bit of duct tape, and suddenly you have a now fully functional item that'll last you another year
Mm-hmm.
for a can of beer. You know,
Basically, yeah. Um,
um,
a friend of mine, he was visiting other friends, and he was their friend much longer than he was mine. Had a diesel Volkswagen, one of the square shaped ones, like a Golf or not the traditional Beetle, but uh,
like the Jet or the Rabbit or something like that.
yeah, yeah, and uh, the the throttle cable had worn through the little connector that had it up on the uh, it was diesel, so I can't say carburetor, but you know that bit, and it wasn't drivable. He couldn't go anywhere. Push down the accelerator, and nothing would happen. I went out there and got a few pieces of junk out of my toolbox. Let's see, I believe it was a couple of pieces from a brake rebuild kit, and I had a spool of 40-pound test fishing line. So I put a little disc off of a brake rebuild kit on the end of it so that it wouldn't pull through the connector to the throttle assembly, and tied that sucker on there. And there were probably a couple of other little bits and pieces of junk involved. And I go, look, this will probably get you back to North Carolina from Athens, Georgia. You need to take it to a shop and have the cable replaced. It'd be real easy, probably won't cost you much. He drove that thing for about 2, maybe 3 years before he sold the car with my lash up still in place. Never bothered to have it fixed. I'm going, dude, I told you that was a temporary clutch. You should have had that done. He's going, never stopped working. Why should I fix it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it is broke, call a redneck.
My pops is, he's redneck from the other direction. He grew up in northern Wisconsin. It's he was logging from the time he was 9 or 11 years old, with the family business. And it's the same principle. It's they grew up where if something broke, you couldn't just run down to the five and dime and fix it. You couldn't just run down to the local garage. The nearest neighbor was a quarter mile away. Um,
The nearest store was probably 20 miles away.
about 10.
Mm.
Um, and it was still the same dinky little ramshackle place when I visited it. 20 to 30 some odd years later, when my parents and I would go up to visit my grandma, who was still still living in the same place. It's the town that time forgot. Um, by now it's probably upgraded some, so it'd be interesting to see what it looks like now. Um, but yeah, so it's I grew up with that. Okay, well, this isn't working. What else can we do to get it to limp along? We don't need it to run. We need it to limp. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and just that's when my father joined the company, that my mom's brother had started doing furnaces and air conditioning. It's he was helping out just odd jobs here and there when they needed a hand when he was still working at the steel mill in the machine shop. And it's they're like, you want to come on full time? He's like, yeah, sure. And they were in the middle of tearing out a furnace and putting a new furnace in, and they were just going to throw the old furnace away. He's like, can I keep this? And my uncle and his partner are like, yeah, go for it. Saves us the hassle of having to pay for the disposal. So according to my mom, that weekend my father tore that furnace completely apart and put it back together so many times it wasn't funny, to figure out how everything works, and to get the feel for the machine. And my father is extremely colorblind. um, to him, most of the house is gray.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is yellow. He'd look at my shirt and think that's gray. He'd look at the green and yellow that's here in the kitchen and be like, that's all gray. Um, but the man could still wire a furnace blindfolded, and it worked first time every time. You know, and I'm not just talking. Okay, we know stripes go with stripes usually. But he'd be able to figure out that, okay, this is the green, this is the red. These two don't touch. These two do. And it always amazed me at his ability to be able to figure out which is which on things that it's not like he cut them and bent them and marked them in a certain way. It's he's pulling something out of a box to wire on in to a harness, and he's able to figure out in that mess of wires, which one really is the green without being able to tell what green is.
We had one situation that was really, um, it was really troubling. One of the tractors had, it was a diesel tractor, had a bad voltage regulator on it, and it seemed to be designed badly because we replaced the damn thing 2 or 3 times and still had the same problem. But I'd be in the field plowing away, started getting dark, had to drive home in the dark. All of a sudden, all the lights went off, even though the engine didn't. And I knew where the voltage regulator was right behind the gauge for the RPMs and the hours and everything. And I was really tired of this. We'd already replaced the thing about 3 times. Brand new parts. Still, same problem. Wasn't any of the rest of the wiring in the tractor. Everything was fine. It was a bad series of spare parts that we were getting from the dealer. I stood up, hitting the clutch and the brakes on the tractor, pulling on the steering wheel, brought the thing to a screeching halt from, a blazing 20 miles an hour. Thumped the damn thing through the hood, just bam! Same technology that took us to the moon. If it doesn't work, hit it with a bigger hammer. Lights came on. Everything. I'm going down the road. Every time the lights went off again, bam! Lights came back on. Everything's fine. And this went on probably another month. And finally, Daddy got tired of it because it never occurred to him to thump it. I can make it work. Never occurred to Daddy. He's a machinist. He was trained. He worked for GM. He worked for Union Carbide. He worked in Oak Ridge. He quit a job at the Y-12 gas diffusion plant where they refined uranium for nuclear bombs because it was not challenging to his abilities. Here I am, Silly teenager going, thump, get it working. Finally, Daddy goes, I'm buying parts from another store. Put in another voltage regulator. This is probably the fourth one we put in. Never fucked up again. That particular parts dealer was his supplier was bound and determined to get rid of their stock of defective parts.
I have an HP printer over here, um, and it's an all-in-one device. Scans, in the whole 9 yards. Um, the um, the track for the um, print cartridges, um, and also the track for the light for the scanning, froze up, and I'm having the biggest problems with it. I can't get it running again after having to change the toner. Finally, I go to HP's site. For the error code that popped up on the screen, the HP site actually says turn the device off, hold it about 6 inches off of a hard surface, hold it level, and let go. HP suggests percussive maintenance
Bump it. Yep.
on their own product.
Yeah. I
And
want.
what it
I.
is it's dust that's getting in there and clogging the gears. And then when you thump it, it clears it out.
Mm-hmm.
You knock
I
the
once.
sediment loose.
I once bought a cassette deck from a pawn shop. Wonderful piece of equipment. It was had the best sound quality ever. Occasionally, you'd turn it on, and both peak meters would fly and peg out, and you'd hear this enormous roar coming out of the speakers. I mean, it was just Rah! So that annoyed me to no end, and I had
Hi, Keisha.
a, a piece of a broom handle. Hey, Keisha, yeah, we're still awake. And I found a place where there weren't any controls, and I wouldn't break any of the plexiglass, and I tapped it firmly with the end of the piece of broom handle. Peak meters went back to normal. Deck worked perfectly. I go, okay, that's the end of that. As the unit got a little older, and I kept making demands of it because this was back when I had a recording studio, and this was one of the major bits of my recording studio, along with a reel-to-reel tape recorder and another cassette deck and two 6-channel mixing boards. Um, this thing, I got to the point where I'd turn the power on and reach for the stick before the noise ever came out of the speakers. Thump! Went back to normal, worked just fine. I think I used that thing for 10 years, and all I had to do was thump it when I turned it on and it would work. I don't remember what happened to it. Um, I think uh, when I gave up the garage band stuff because I got married the first time, I pretty much got rid of a lot of the equipment that I had to make sure that I didn't come home from work one day and my wife had taken it to a pawn shop.
So you're talking about equipment that you're prepping for things before because you know how the startup sequence is going to be.
Hmm.
Again, um, growing up in this house, a couple feet that way. Um, Came home from work early. I wasn't feeling well. Worked a midnight shift. Um, Again, walking through the house completely, you know, blacked out because I knew where everything was because it's where I spent the majority of my life. Turned on the TV and started going to the restroom and ended up soiling myself in the middle of the hallway in the living room right there because I wasn't paying attention to the fact that the sound came up on the TV before the picture did, so there was no light in the room. Um, and Tim Curry and It. All of a sudden, in stark darkness, I hear beep beep, Richie. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But if
Story
it
number
had to be anybody, if
two.
it had to be anybody, I'm glad it was Tim Curry because that man's got a voice.
Oh, well, here's the thing. How often do you hear your name spoken in a completely dark house that's not a member of your family? Um, have a good night, Keisha. Story number
Good
two.
night, Keisha.
Downstairs. Um, Same kind of thing happened. My mom and dad weren't home. My eldest sister took me to the doctor. Um, I was having extremely bad migraines, so I could not see to be able to drive. So my sister had to drive me to the doctor to get medicine and the whole 9 yards. So we get home, turn on the TV, and we're sitting there talking, and we forgot that the sound comes up before the actual TV. All of a sudden we hear, "Hey Richard, who the hell's calling me, Richard?" Looking around the house. All of a sudden we hear, "Fat guy in a little coat." I'd not seen Tommy Boy yet, so I had no idea what the hell this was. And then all of a sudden, David Spade starts talking, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then the picture comes up. I'm like, okay. So yeah, so not only was my name called, they're talking about a fat guy in a little coat, and I'm in the middle of taking my coat off and just coming in, and it's like the serendipity there.
The
Um,
the remote control sarcasm. Yes.
my best friend, love him to death, and sometimes I'm willing to strangle him to prove it. So at one point in time, I was working at Value City in the toy department around Christmas, which means that after the store closes, I'm still not getting home till like 3 or 4 a.m. because we have to reface the entire store. When your
Yes.
department is finished, you find another department and you keep going until the entire place is done.
That's part of closing. Yes.
So my best friend, um, this is back in the day of VHS because DVD wasn't a thing yet. Had this remarkable ability to be able to put a tape in, fast forward, and hit stop, and wait for it to be in the exact place that he wanted it to be, and then he'd cue everything up. He'd dial someone, and then all of a sudden you get the thing playing, whatever little soundbite he was doing. So um, he loved doing that to me. Soon as he heard my voice, he would go ahead and play whatever soundbite he wanted, to play. Usually it was a Star Wars soundbite, stuff like that. He didn't know I was working that night. Mom answered the phone. He didn't wait to see who answered the phone. As soon as he heard he hit play, it was Better Off Dead. Um, it was, "Gee, sorry your mom's face blew up, Ricky." My mom was starting to lose her hearing at that point in time. All she heard was, "Sorry, mom blew up Richie." So I get home, I get read the riot act. Where the hell were you? At work.
At work.
Bullshit. It closes at 10. It's Christmas. I work in the toy department. You know, it's trashed. Um, so she finally, explained everything. And as soon as she saw what happened, I'm just like, fucking Jeff. And she's like, what? I'm like, he probably had a movie quote or something like that he was playing. And the next time I talked to him, he's like, that wasn't you? I'm like, no, no, mom wants to kick your ass.
That's a serious threat right there.
Well,
I
the other
know
thing,
grown men that would run from that statement.
um, and Jeff is the one that brought me into IT. He actually got me out of the factory and started working in a, a company with him. And it was funny because, a couple months in, people were like, so which one of you brothers started working here first? And I'm like, brothers? Who? And they're like, Jeff, he's your brother, right? And I look down at my name tag. My badge says Asplin. I look over at Jeff's, says Rance. I'm like, then I'm like, okay, well, okay, there are blended families and stuff like that, but I still don't. And then it dawned on me, it's Jeff and I are both portly individuals. He's 5 to 6 inches shorter than I am, but we're here. I'm dark haired, dark eyed. He's blonde hair, blue eyed. And then we have the same speech cadence because we've been best friends since we were 12. And then what really clicked home is one day I was asking him how his mom was, but I'd never said your mom. I called his mom Ma. He called my mom Mom. So all of a sudden it clicks. I'm like, oh, okay, because we're always talking about how's mom. Mom's doing good. How's mom? And people thought it was really weird that right after I asked him how mom was, he asked me how mom was. No one ever put it together.
Yeah. Um, but you could have made that into a wonderful comedy routine if you really wanted to be cruel to those people. Oh, and now I'm thinking of lines from Thin Man movies. Oh God, my brain works in mysterious ways when it actually decides to work, um, which is seldom and erratically. Okay, we've hit the 2 hour limit, so let's play the bedtime story, and I'm going to go and hope that when I lay down, the sciatica pain goes away until tomorrow. This is getting annoying, and I think I'm just going to have to live with it for the rest of my life because any kind of surgery just make it worse. And plus, be expensive. Um, I don't know which is worse. It won't work, or it costs money. Um,
Or the fact that it might not work and cost money.
well, that was a given right there. I don't believe it would work, and it's going to cost money. But I don't know which of the two is the worst option available. I've got to go to the brand, and there is the closing. Um, Rich, it's always an extreme pleasure when you join me. I want you to know I am very thankful for you being here,
Thank you.
um, and it's we heterodyne very well together. One day we might have to write something between the two of us. It'd be uh, it'd be an honor. Don't know what we would have in common to write about, but hey, with the kind of imaginations we both have, we might find something and just totally freak out the rest of the world. Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be fun.
All right. Well, you have a good night, and whoever's been watching this whole time, you have a good night too. And Carl, I know you're going to be watching this tomorrow, so hope you had a good night's sleep, and hope Donna had a good night's sleep as well, 'cause well, and Joe Dog and John, everybody that wimped out on us. Ah, late nights are not for wusses, let me tell you. But here we go, folks. Bedtime story.
Take a light. Be
Good
safe,
night,
guys.
Rich.
Night, Dan.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. System will shut down.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.